And we are live. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Greetings, greetings. Welcome, top of the morning to everybody out there. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Week 39, Virtual Assistant Principal Leadership Academy. Looking forward to seeing you all. Come on in. Janine Wilkins, Leah White, John Herricks is in the building. Miss Massey is in the building. Learner Mrs. Blow is in the building. Yolanda McKinney, Mrs. Yolanda McKinney is in the building. Canella Rise, Superintendent Finch, Sherry Jones is in the building. Come on in, folks. My man Greg Sneed is in the building. My man Michael Benton is in the building. Melissa Allison, Cara DeMeo, Demetrius Scott is in the building. Lily Lanier, Allison Geary is in the building. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Hit that share button while you come in here. Principal Siobhan Jackson's in the building. Shatunda Howard's in the building. Angela Smith is in the building. Shay Campbell, J.B. Johnson 810 is in the building. I know I missed some folks. Felicia Davis Noel is in the building. Who we got here? We got Mrs. Shiapon. You know I messed that up. I'm sorry about that. LaWanda Smith is in the building. Nancy Lawrence Moore is in the building. Monica Welch is in the building. Shalita Hines is in the building. Joy Vanna Redmond is in the building. We got a lot of people in the building. Come on in, folks. Twitter, hit that retweet button for me. Let them know we're here. Amy Cook is here. Sheila Leaf is here. Principal Josh Tovar is in the building. My man. Hit that retweet button for me. Twitter, Facebook, hit that share button. Let them know. We got a solid hour of information. We got Principal Sean Hurt, my man, in the building, doing big things. You know, you guys check him out on Sunday nights at 7:00. You know, we do this like a tag team. You know, I come on Saturday morning at 11, and then, you know, so I'll do my part, and then he comes with his part on Sunday evening at 7. So just think 11 and 7, right? 11 Saturday morning at 7 p.m. For Sean Hurt, Principal Sean Hurt, right? Kimberly Broughton Kafele, my wife, is in the building. Lakeisha Mabry is in the building. I know I missed a lot of you. Kalana Hotep, you know that word Hotep, that was 14 years of principal leadership, and that's the way we greeted at my schools for 14 years. We said Hotep, right? We said good morning, buenos dias, and Hotep to everybody, right? And then taught them that word, and that was just part of my whole teaching them their story thing that I was doing with the young people for all the years, not just my principal years, but then my teaching years, Hotep, you know. So Hotep comes from ancient Kemet, known as Egypt, meaning peace. Shar Mills is in the building. Ernie Cox is in the building. Jennifer Gates is in the building. Janice Stapleton, Dr. Tiffany Wilson's in the building. Tamika Jointer Perrin is in the building. Kendra Hamilton's in the building. Come on in, folks. Let them know. Hit that share button. I don't have one of those, you know, those news related themes today. You know, we getting back to the nuts and bolts here, right? We're talking about policy and contracts and law, you know, an idea, you know, all that kind of thing, because all that's necessary as well. So it's not always going to be the hot topics, and, you know, the hot topics draw folks from beyond the immediate core of my Saturday audience, but that's okay. This is necessary work. Marcus Morris is in the building. We're almost there. Laura Myers in the building. Genevieve is in the building. Jane Stapleton's in the building. And I'm looking at my clock here, and it says 11 o'clock. So one more time before I started formally, hit that share button for me. Facebook, both of the platforms, Principal Kafele and Virtual Assistant Principal Leadership Academy. Twitter, hit that retweet button. And then my YouTube folks out there, I see you. My YouTube folks on the Virtual AP Leadership Academy channel, hit that share button. Let somebody know they need to be here this morning. So it's 11 o'clock. So with that said, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 39 of the Virtual Assistant Principal Leadership Academy. Man, where'd that time go? And as I always start off, look, I don't know about you. I would like to think I know, right? But I don't know. But I'm going to speak for me. If I could just tell you about how I'm feeling real quick, I'm on fire. Y'all didn't hear me. Let me let you know how I feel one more time. I'm on fire. Why is he blazing? Why is he on fire? Well, first and foremost, because God woke me up this morning. I mean, that's number one. But number two, because I get the 39th opportunity to talk about assistant principal leadership. And then I could go on and on just explaining why I'm on fire, why you're on fire. But, I want to leave it at those two for now. I'm not going to let anything extinguish that fire. Nothing. I'm blazing. Right? So, I always got a word for you before we jump into it. But before I get to my word, something like came from out of nowhere. Remember weeks ago, my word of the day was exhale. It's every week when I write my word of the day and my short message, my motivational message, I'm thinking about that word, exhale. And I just want to remind somebody, because you might be like, running and running and running, and you forgot to like close your eyes, like you see me doing right now. Just and see, I'm not even talking about the political landscape and all that. That's not. I'm not doing that today. We getting into some contracts and policy and law and all that. But the work, the grind, a pandemic didn't make the work easier. It made it different, but not easier. So sometimes you just gotta catch yourself and just. You might be working toward, these interviews, chasing these interviews and getting the resume ready and all that, trying to move to that next level. And the frustration that sets in surrounding that. And then you just gotta. See, so don't forget that, right? I needed to throw that in. That just kind of dropped into my spirit. God said, talk to these people about exhaling, because some people not exhaling, you just inhaling. Right? You just inhaling, but you got to exhale, right? So my short message, I'll keep it short. Protecting your time. Once again, protecting your time. See, we've been talking about protecting your peace and protecting your energy, protecting a whole lot of aspects of our lives. But here I'm saying your time. Remember when we talked about, those of you who've been rocking with me for the whole time, we talked about time management, or those of you who saw the videos later on, time management. Well, we were talking about managing your time. Here I'm saying briefly, you also have to protect your time. See, you got to put a shield around your time. You got to put bars around your time. You got to secure your time, right? So in other words, there's 24 hours in a day. You got the work itself, which is why we come on here every Saturday morning, and you're doing the work. But within the work, there's time that you've got to protect, right? For various different reasons. We want to get into all the specificity of that, because that'd be a whole 1 hour session. But there's certain time you just have to protect it. I'm not even talking about managing it now. I'm talking about you got to protect it. But then you got your life away from school. Right? You got your life with your family, a life with your friends, life with your recreational world, life with continuing your education, life with whatever, right? Well, you got to protect that. Again, we talked about managing it, but I'm somewhere else right now. You got to protect it. You got to guard it. You got to shield it. You got to block it out from everybody else, from everything else. you got to protect it, right? Just like you protect your home, you protect yourself, you protect your loved ones. Well, you got to protect your time, right? And then my word of the week is navigator. Once again, navigator. And I'm saying to you that as a school leader, or as an aspiring school leader, or as a district leader, as a division leader, as a department leader, whatever the leaders are that are watching the broadcast or who will see the video on YouTube, I'm saying to you that you've got to see yourself as a navigator. See, think about you on a boat with somebody, and you know, they don't have maps and all that. They just kind of know the seas, right? Well, if they're a poor navigator, you might get out there and get lost and be somewhere you don't want to be, and find it very challenging to get back to where you were, to get back to land in general, because the navigational skills are not there of this person that you entrusted to take you out into the water. Well, I'm saying to you that there are people who have entrusted you to lead them effectively, to lead them to the next level. So that means you've got to be a superior navigator as you navigate these waters, as you navigate these challenges, as you navigate these obstacles, these pressures, these demands, right? You've got to be able to navigate it and get to the other side unscathed. See, you're a navigator. So yes, you're a leader, but you got to also see yourself as that navigator. That is important, right? So let's jump into it. I got a lot to say today, but I would be remiss, you know, we always got to talk briefly some baseball here. You know, the jersey I'm wearing, this is regular major leagues, but it's old school. You're not going to see this on the field. This is Ernie Banks, and played in the Negro Leagues for the Kansas City Monarchs. It's a Hall of Famer. You know, I could talk about all his stats and all that, but Ernie Banks. But yesterday we lost Henry Aaron, the Hammer, known as Hank Aaron, right? And people have been on Twitter saying, I know you're gonna wear your Indianapolis Clowns jersey. You know, I wore it like 2 weeks ago, so I didn't want to wear it again. It's in the closet, right? But here's the thing. I got to talk about Henry Aaron in the context of the social justice conversations that we have been having on this broadcast periodically since I started 39 weeks ago. Henry Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record. I want you to hear me really well. I think what I'm going to say is probably more significant than what I'm going to talk about today. Henry Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record. For those of you that are not baseball fans, the biggest record in all of sports, like the biggest one, the one that stands out, the one over time that has meant more than anything else in terms of a record being broken, has always been the home run record. That's always been the big one, right? Not the scoring record in basketball, the scoring record, the passing record, the running yardage, and all that in football and all the other sports. It's always been the home run, right? So Babe Ruth held that record for years, 714 home runs. Hank Aaron, I want you to hear, put your ear to the speaker. I want you to hear this. All this man was doing was coming to the plate with his bat and attempting to hit the ball out of the park. He's playing a sport. That's all he was doing, right? He happened to be better than probably any other human being that ever lived at doing it in terms of hitting the ball over the fence, out of the park. So he would get up in the morning, go to the ballpark, play baseball with his teammates, go to the plate, and attempt to hit the ball over the fence. Now he was superior at it. So now, as you know, no one really thought about it when he was nowhere near 714, but as he was approaching 714 home runs and to tie Babe Ruth and then 715 to break it, here came the hate mail. I want you to hear me now, because I want to talk about the irrationality of racism, right? So here came the hate mail. I have known throughout my life, because I was a Hank Aaron fan, I've known throughout my life that he received hate mail, but I didn't know the quantity until yesterday. Over 3,000 letters per, not year, not month, not week, over 3,000 hate mail death threat letters per day. Y'all didn't hear me. Over 3,000 hate mail death letters per day. I want you to think about that for a minute. 3,000 people taking a pen, because that's before we had computers. So 3,000 people picking up a pen, picking up a sheet of paper. Mr. Aaron, you N-word monkey, this and that, or we're going to kill you if you break Babe Ruth's record. I mean, I want you to think about that for a minute. Right? That's in my lifetime. We're talking about the 70s. That's in my lifetime. That someone will pick up a pen and a paper and write a letter, put a stamp on the letter. So made a deliberate effort to go to the post office, get a stamp, put it in the mailbox with the hope that he will receive it, which he did because he kept them all. And someone upset, not because he led a march, not because he led a demonstration, a protest, a rally, but because he went to the plate and held his bat and took a swing at a baseball. Do you hear me? I had no intentions on going this long on this, but as I'm articulating it, because prior to putting together my agenda, it was just thoughts. I don't have this written. But then as I'm articulating this for the first time in my life, I'm amazing myself. I want you to hear me. I've never said this before. So as I'm saying it to you, I'm tripping, right? I'm amazing myself saying that, because when I watch the broadcast, my mind is just processing, but I'm not speaking it. So now as I'm speaking it, and probably I'll write it later and probably trip even more. So as I was speaking it just now to you, I'm saying 3,000 different individuals. I mean, think about that. That's like a small arena. 3,000 different individuals said, let me write this man a hate letter because I'm mad because he's superior at hitting a baseball across a fence. See, that's, we talk about social justice. And we talk about people being in different places in terms of consciousness, understanding, awareness. See, so what I just said is going to hit different people different ways, depending on your own knowledge base. See, but that's an incredible thing. It's absolutely incredible, right? It's absolutely incredible. So I just had to hit that there. Now let me bring it down a little bit so I can get to where we are. So let's jump at it, y'all. If you don't have this yet, come on now. The Assistant Principal 50, it accompanies the Academy, and then the Aspiring Principal 50. I want you to have this here too, right? So these both go hand in glove with the the virtual Assistant Principal Leadership Academy, right? So I want you to make sure that you have them both, right? Not just one of them, but I want you to have them both, right? The overarching theme, does my assistant principalship benefit my school academically? And then, as I said last week, I've renamed my YouTube channel that coincides with the broadcast so that it has the same name now. So Virtual AP Leadership Academy instead of School Leadership Thoughts. That's it. Let's jump into it. My topic today, school district policy, school law and codes, special education law, IDEA, and teacher contracts. And I know that's not going to be relevant for everybody, so I kept that kind of short because everybody's not in a unionized district. But some of you never know where you may wind up, so I wanted to add it in this conversation, right? So the chapter I'm using this book, and I'm gonna read a couple of passages from it. I'm in the Assistant Principal 50. Get it from Amazon, ascd.org, or principalkafele.com. I'm on chapter 5 entitled There's Much to Know as an Assistant Principal. Once again, there's much to know as an assistant principal, right? So here we go. I'm on question number 27. We got Kim Wilson Daniel out there taking notes. She's at Kim Wilson Daniel on Twitter, so you can get the notes there. And she's at Kimberly Wilson Daniel on Facebook, and she posts on both, and then I go on and post them as well. So you'll be able to get those from her. So here we go. Question number 27 reads, am I conversant in my school district's policies? Once again, am I conversant in my school district, my schools? Let me say that again. I'm talking too fast. Am I conversant in my school district's policies? Man, I'm thinking about these policy manuals. I remember in my district, the few districts I worked in, there were these thick, huge, thick manuals. There are typically two of them, and I mean they were thick. And I knew, I'm gonna get into why I knew, but I learned that I have to know these. I got to know them as if I wrote them. So I had to be conversant. And I want to break down a few areas that you would find in a policy. Like those of you who are seasoned, you know this, but I'm still keep it relevant for you. Those of you who are not seasoned, or those of you who are APs and don't necessarily, some may not necessarily be conversant in policy or even gravitate to policy. I want to help you to change that practice, right? So let's look at it. I want to look at maybe about 20 different areas. Number one, attendance. I want you to think about with any school district, there are multiple attendance policies, right? So there's the overall attendance policy, but then you got various different clauses that go along with the attendance policy. So I want to give you a scenario. You've got a youngster that is doing phenomenal work, right? A youngster's honor roll student in your school, but youngster's attendance is unsatisfactory. Youngster is so unsatisfactory that your district says X number of days of absenteeisms means that youngster cannot be promoted to the next grade. So say, for example, 18 days as it is in Jersey, right? So 18 days being absent from school, you cannot be promoted to the next grade level. But here you are, a school leader, and you see that here's this student who's maintained honor roll status somehow while being absent for 18 days. And maybe you've investigated and found that the 18 days of absenteeism is justified, right? Like there are things happening in this youngster's life that this youngster just can't make it to school every day. You've seen that and you deem, wow, okay, I get it, right? But there is policy in place, right? And here's where you got to be very careful. There's policy in place, and policy spells out, right, what to do in that situation. Policy may be very, very like very clear cut that 18 days of absenteeism, regardless of the grades that have been accumulated, that this youngster has to repeat the grade, right? So whatever the appeal process may be, it may be there, it may not be there. But my point in bringing this up to you with this scenario, this example, is to say to you that you can't just promote youngster or graduate youngster because of grades, because you feel that, well, the grades are good, it's a good kid, I understand the problems, so you feel sympathetic. But policy, because if you don't follow policy, then you can find yourself, your job in jeopardy because you have violated policy. So you have to know policy. So as Sheikah Johnson is saying, during COVID, it's a different kind of a challenge. But you still have to adhere unless some kind of provisions have been made for your district as it relates to absenteeism during COVID. And a lot of times, as we've learned over the past almost year now, student may be present 100% of the time. But because of just complications of tracking students through the computer, we could still run into all sorts of problems, right? So whatever your appeals process, you have that in place. But you have to know policy, and you have to make decisions grounded in policy. You can't just make an emotional decision because of your sympathy or empathy for a youngster that has exceeded the allowable number of absences in the year because you know the backstory. Policy was written for a reason. So I think about myself. I know I went through some appeals processes on a variety of issues over the years, right? Because of my love for the children. So I couldn't just go with policy and say, look, the decision is made. There's nothing else to talk about. I got to figure out a way to meander through this thing so that this youngster is still able to graduate, still able to be promoted, whatever the situation was for a given youngster. So attendance as it relates to policy. Number two, tardiness, right? And I see where Demetrius is making the distinction between unexcused and excused, right? So those unexcused start accumulating into, those excused starting to accumulate into those unexcused and so forth. And then it starts to accumulate, right? So hopefully the interventions are happening far before we get to 18, to use that as a hypothetical number. But in the interim, you got to know the policy. And that's the whole point here, right? Next, tardiness, which goes hand in glove with the attendance, because youngster may have great attendance, but youngsters coming to school late every day. Well, what does the policy say about tardiness, right? So some school districts, 3 unexcused tardies might translate into an unexcused absence, right? 1 unexcused absence. So now this youngster has got like 50, 60 unexcused tardies, right? And I'm not doing the math in real time on camera, so don't expect me to have the right numbers. But whatever it is, now here's this youngster. I can't be promoted because I've got 18 absences, but I've been in school every day. Yeah, but those unexcused tardies have been converted to unexcused absences. So 3 unexcused tardies. Now you got 1 unexcused absence. Now you got another 3 unexcused tardies, and now you got the 1 unexcused absence. So now I'm saying to you, what does your policy say? Do you know the policy, right? And what provisions are there in terms of an appeals process, right? Or what interventions have you put in place before that youngster gets to say 4 or 5 when you saw the first 3, right? So see here, you as the administrator, as the principal, as the aspiring principal, considering becoming a principal, as the assistant principal, you have to be considering, as I see patterns emerge, what structures and mechanisms will I put in place to prevent the tardies from accumulating? Because in the mind of the student, and probably in the mind of the parent, oh, I'm just a minute late. Oh, I'm just 2 minutes late. Okay, yeah, I get it. You probably didn't lose any instructional time on those 1 or 2 minutes. However, there's a policy in place that says that the 1 or 2 minutes is problematic. And that's what you have to understand. Your emotions are not going to save that child. Your sentiments toward this child's situation are not going to rescue that child. Policy is going to drive everything. So, but if you're not conversant in policy, if you don't know policy and you think you can make emotional decisions to save or rescue a child, it's not going to happen. You have to be conversant in policy. You have to make sure that you're enforcing policy. And again, if there's an appeals process, then you and your district can investigate it and see what can be done. But simultaneously, you got to be looking at that youngster, trying to figure out how we going to prevent this from happening or recurring on and on and on. Right. And I see you guys are leaving me a whole lot of notes. So, I read them at the end of the broadcast. That's how I spend my Saturday afternoons, reading all these notes, because some days there's like over 1,000 different comments between the 3 platforms, right? The 4 platforms. Let me keep going. I'll go quickly. Students leaving school early. Student come down to your office with a note from home that I got to go wherever. You can't just sign off and say, have a nice day. There's policy. And do you know the policy? Do you know what it says about students leaving early? Because once that student walks into that building, that student is your child, right? Forget the word student. Once that student walks into that building, that student is your child. So you can't now, because the parent wrote a note that I need my youngster at 12, you can't just sign off and we done. You got to go to policy. You got to pull that thick manual off your shelf, and hopefully you don't have to blow dust off of it because it's never been read before, right? So hopefully it's an active, ongoing document, or if you're reading it online, whatever it is. For me, I like the hard copy as opposed to online. But you go to that policy, or you already know the procedure. You're gonna go to the policy just to remind you, reinforcement that when the student leaves early, the policy says X, Y, Z, and in addition to just the permission to leave, and who is allowed to pick youngster up, because that's another thing. What's the policy say about big brother coming to pick up his younger sister, right? What's the policy say about grandma coming to the school to pick up the sister? What's the policy say about cousin coming to pick up the 16-year-old to get her hair done for the Sweet 16 party later that night, right? What's the policy say? You can't just, oh man, I love my kids. She's 16 today. I know this is a big event. In fact, she even invited me. I'll sign off. Does policy support that decision? See, you create your own policy. You may as well, you know, you can get to a point where you might have to create your own school because you won't be employed in that one anymore, or that district, right? So you have to know policy. Let me keep going. Grading. Man, you know, I'm looking at the time. I wrote these notes thinking I wouldn't have enough material to get to 12. I fooled myself, right? Let's keep moving. Grading. See, it's easy to come in there with your strict criteria. Right. So you've got this strict criteria as it relates to grades. But here's the thing. What's the policy say about grading? Maybe the way you grade is a little bit too stringent, or maybe the way you grade is a little bit too easy, too lax. Right? What's policy say about how you assign an A, B, C, D, or E, or 1, 2, 3, 4? Right? What does the policy say? You got to know it. Hey, let me talk to the folks who are still not even out of grad school yet. Let me holler at you for a minute. Have you been thinking about policy? Have you gone to your principal and said, can I read the policy manuals? Right? That's something to do now, not when they hire you. You could get a jump on that right now and start reading those manuals, because you have to know district policy. And although you may not necessarily know which district you're going to work in, it doesn't matter if you read the policy of a different district, because policy is policy. It will vary between districts, but it'll give you at least an understanding of policy. I don't know how grad school is today, but I know when I was in grad school in 94, 95, I know that the 94 through 96, I know that the word policy never came up. I know that. It was never a topic of discussion when I was in grad school. I figured I was introduced to policy when I was doing my internship with one of the assistant principals, who was my mentor, right? So grading, and I'll couple grading with honor roll, right? If the school has the discretion to determine what makes honor roll, then fine. What constitutes honor roll, then fine. But if the school doesn't have that discretion, have you checked with the policy manual to determine what constitutes an honor roll student? You want to be consistent with that policy. Now, if you have the flexibility to raise the standard, then fine, but you don't want to come in there lower, right? So you got to consider it. Let me keep going. Student attire. We can really get heavy now. I've been dealing with the light stuff now. Let's get heavy. Student attire, man. In full disclosure, I know I violated some policy with that. I know I did, right? Because see, back in them days, like a lot of my principal years was when the gang activity was like thick, right? So now I got students trying to wear this subtle gang attire in my school. I'm not looking for policy now. Now I know I need policy to support my decisions, but in this case, I'm going to set the tone. Now, I'm not saying you do that because I'd be careless in this academy. I'm just being honest and vulnerable and transparent. That when I saw that, and because I was conversing in that paraphernalia, then this was Kafele speaking. You can't wear that here, right? And then we'll talk about the whys and the making different decisions in a different form. But for now, as you walked in the building and you proudly wearing your paraphernalia, oh no, not here. We're not doing that here, right? And then and again, but the layers underneath, we'll deal with that later. So I'm saying to you, student attire. Maybe it's not gang related, but maybe there's something about the attire that you just don't like. Well, you can't make that emotional decision because the policy might support it. So just because you don't like it, just because it doesn't meet your taste, right, doesn't mean that you can now stand at that front door and say, look, you can't wear this. You got to go to that policy because you may be violating that youngster's rights, right? So you have to make, so you got to know that policy, you got to refer to that policy, but ultimately I want you to know that policy so that when you see attire that is not consistent with the expectations of the district relative to the policy, you're in position to address it. You're in a position of strength to address it, as opposed to just making an emotional decision. Right? Let's keep it moving. We're getting a little heavy on this now. I said student attire, next cell phone usage. Yeah, that was straightforward. But although you don't want your students on the phone in the school, in the classroom, there is a policy on how to handle that, right? Particularly on confiscation, right? Whether that's something whether that's one of the consequences you're imposing. Or taking phones before they go to school. I know many schools where the students would have to put their phones in the locker right before school started. Now those teachers who are way ahead of the curve, they don't want the phones in the locker. Hear me now. Those teachers who are way ahead of the curve with the technology, they want the phone in the classroom. And you know why, right? Because they're going to use the phone to their advantage. They're going to incorporate and infuse the phone into their lessons, their math lessons, their science lessons, their whatever lessons. They're going to use that technology. They're not going to see that teacher who's like way ahead of the curve. They're not going to look at the youngster come in here with a computer in his or her hand, in his or her pocket, and say, hide it. No, let's use the computer. But that's for a whole other topic that maybe I'll do in a later week, right? So, but you got to find the policy in terms of how we go about using the cell phone, confiscation of the phone, consequences for using the phone. The policy will let you know. But again, if you've got a tech mind, and your teachers have a tech mind, and you see the pros, the pluses, the advantages of the phone, then it's time to have a conversation with your supervisor to see how we can infuse it, as opposed to folks being afraid and intimidated to use the computers that they're bringing to school every day. Right? Next, student discipline. That's a big one, because sometimes, it's easy to get so upset, so angry, so frustrated that put them out for 5 days. I doubt seriously you're going to find a policy that supports that, right? Put him out for 5 days because his name's been on the board all week long in the classroom. Yeah, I know anger sets in, but see, for a different conversation, and conversations we've addressed previously, going to the underlying reasons as to why that behavior exists in the first place. It might be because of the classroom, right? It might be because of the school. It could be because of the climate and culture of that building. I don't want to say this one. That's why I saved it for last. It could be because of the teacher, right? That we're seeing these behaviors. But something about the lack of understanding of how to connect with the various learners in my classroom. So now I'm frustrated because I'm not connecting, but I'm pointing the finger at the child, and instead of turning it inwards, getting my mirror and looking at myself. And now I'm looking at the youngster and I'm assistant principal, can you like put him out for a week? I mean, this is crazy. These behaviors are egregious, and I need time. I can't teach. But assistant principal, what's the policy say, right? And see, again, it's a deeper discussion. The why the behaviors exist, that doesn't fall under the policy lesson that I'm doing today. That's for a different conversation. Many conversations we've been having over the 38 weeks. Next one, gambling. I don't have to go deep into that, but at the high school level, gambling in some schools occurs. Matter of fact, it's some middle schools. What's policy say in terms of consequences for that? Right? You thinking youngster going to the bathroom to use the bathroom, they in there rolling dice, right? What's the policy say? At the lunch table, you think it's a real friendly game of cards, and they're gambling. What's the policy say? Right? You gotta go to the policy, got no policy. That's what this whole segment of today is all about, right? Next, fighting. Same thing. I'm just giving you these scenarios. Two individuals fight. One of them is a kid that's a bully. Another one is an innocent youngster, right? So now you got two decisions you got to make. You got to make the emotional decision. But then on the other hand, you got to look at what the policy says, and then you got to kind of finagle it, right? Because I don't want to penalize this kid who had met their wits' end. I don't. But I got to be consistent. So yes, an emotional decision will be made by me on something like that because I gave you an extreme. But I'm also going to refer to policy and see what it says so that I know how to maneuver so that I don't penalize this kid, this youngster who is actually innocent, right? But then we can talk about so many other scenarios with fighting. Let me keep moving. Suspensions. Even though there's a lot of folks in this business called assistant principalship, which I call the most misunderstood and underutilized position in education. Even though there are many who do engage in suspending students. Let me go back. What's the name? Kai Lee. So there's a gambler. There's policies on gambling. Absolutely. Now I will not say across the board in every school district, but I know that there are school districts that have policies about the consequences for gambling in a school. Absolutely. I'm glad you wrote that. So, and Kyle, you said because I hate bullies. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like them either. So therefore, I can't go strict policy on that. I gotta go with my heart on that one too, right? But I gotta know the policy in order to know how I'm going to finagle the whole thing, right? So I was on suspensions. You so mad at a youngster, the teacher's mad, you mad, whomever's mad. You stay home for a week, right? But what's the policy say, right? So you mad because the teacher said, let's keep it real this morning, right? I mean, I try to keep it real all the time. The youngster said, F you, teacher. Now you mad, or the youngster was in your office, assistant principal, and said, F you. Now you mad, you want to write up a quick suspension, like, yo, you out for a week. I'm not even calling your mother right now. Just get out, right? I'll call your mother later. Get out. But see, now that your emotions kind of calm down, what's the policy book say, right? Let me grab a book off the shelf, right? Here you go. Here's one. Matter of fact, this is a book about. It's called Moving into the Superintendency. You see where my thinking was at one point, right? So here. We'll call this the policy manual. Okay, here's a youngster. F you. I'm keeping it real because some of y'all have experienced that, or if you haven't, you might one day. Now you mad? Oh my! Nobody talks to me that way, right? You mad? Give me get that referral. You can't. No one. It's not even legible. You so mad because you writing so quick. Suspension 5 days. Big letters. Boom. Right? He's saying F you while he walking out the door. Right now, you calm down at some point. Jennifer said, I heard worse. Yeah, I know what you mean. What's the manual? What's the policy say? Are you within your right and thereby the student's rights to send youngster home for 5 days? Is that permissible? Or is that going to come back to haunt you? And now you have to call that youngster's parent and say, could you send him back in? I have to put him in detention. And now that youngster looking at you laughing every day because you lost a battle that you couldn't win. See, you can't win that. Now you lost power. You lost authority. See, because you jumped to conclusions without checking the policy to see if you had the authority. Maybe you even was so mad you didn't even go to the principal to get a second opinion. You just went on and sent the youngster walking. And now watch this. Let's add on to it. Youngster, he called you to F you. Youngster, tough guy. So he walking home, but it's some tougher guys in the street. Hear me, somebody. It's some tougher guys in the street. They got an issue with him for another reason. They beat him up. That same kid that said F you, you put him out. He gets beat up for some other reason that has nothing unrelated to what happened in school. And now mother doesn't even know you sent him home because you were so mad. So now you got enormous problems on your hand because you didn't follow policy. That youngster got hurt or worse because of the circles he was in, right? Or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time because the place to be was school. You put him in the street because you didn't know policy, or you knew policy, but you made an emotional decision because your ego got bruised. Now you got big problems. Now they come and sue the district. See, you got big problems. Now people looking at you to see if they still want you on the team. Now you find yourself terminated. You find yourself sent back into a classroom, whatever the case may be, because for one reason you failed to read the policy, or you failed to adhere with the policy. See, you got to read. You got to know your stuff. You got to do your homework. Man, y'all writing me so much. You know I'm gonna be on all this stuff. Let me put somebody up here. Let me put somebody. Here we go. Got Jeffrey up here. So let me go. We still getting deep. Detentions. It's easy to put somebody in detention. I get it. It's easy to put someone in detention. But what's that policy say about keeping that youngster at school? If, let's say school dismisses 3:30 and that youngster's not being dismissed till 4:30 from your school. What does policy say about that? What's policy say where it's getting dark outside at 4:30 and now this youngster is walking home? This youngster has to walk 2 miles, 3 miles. That youngster, by the time they arrive home, it's jet black outside. It's dark outside. What's policy say about that? And this youngster's a 3rd grader, a 4th grader, a 5th grader, or whatever grade. And you release this youngster, or release the youngster while it was still sunlight, but by the time youngster gets home, it's dark outside. What's policy say? And now, let's add on to it. And youngster ran into a crowd that wasn't a pleasant crowd to run into. See, we got all that to consider. You have got to know policy. You got to know it. Let's keep moving. Administering medication. I learned this. I didn't learn this one the hard way, but I did learn it on the job. And here's what I mean. Now again, I was a rookie. I was in my 30s. I'm 60 now. I was in my 30s. I thought, no, I didn't learn this as a principal. I learned this as a teacher. That's what it was. I didn't know the issue with a youngster taking a Tylenol, right? Or aspirin in the class. I didn't know, because it wasn't taught to me. I knew it as a leader, but I didn't know it as a classroom teacher. So then I subsequently became a leader and had teachers that did not know, right? They thought that they could just, that if a youngster had a headache and they had a bottle of Tylenol in their purse or their pocket, they could take the Tylenol. No, they can't. There's policy. There's policy. See, so you got to make sure that you know policy. And the bottom line, if youngster, man, I keep moving this the wrong way. Okay. If youngster is sick, is ill, that's why they hired a nurse, right? That's what the nurse is there for. My go-to will always be the nurse, right? Always be the nurse, right? Like Pamela Tola, Chris Wells was saying, definitely need to know the policy because I couldn't even give a child a cough drop. And I'm glad. Thank you for putting that there because I wasn't even thinking about going there. You can't even administer a cough drop, right? You can't administer a cough drop, and there's policy there, right? There's policy. So if a youngster is feeling ill, your first line of defense is the nurse's office, right? And if the nurse is not there, then you call central office. But you're not a doctor. You're not trained to be a doctor. And even if you are a doctor, you're not there in the capacity of doctor, right? So you still, you have to know policy, right? So here I got my superintendent book. I read the whole thing a couple of times, but I don't think I'm gonna walk into this role. But here's the thing: as superintendent, I got to make sure that my administrators, my principals, and my assistant principals are conversant in what to do when a youngster is not feeling well in class. If a youngster comes to school with a tickle in their throat, a sore throat, what to do? Got to be conversant in that, right? Let me keep moving. Smoking in school, man. Smoking in school. I mean, the emotional inclination is to suspend. But you first have to know what the policy says before you go on and suspend. What does policy say? And then once you get the policy, then you can make a decision, right? I'm going to keep moving because I can't believe how fast time is going. And I'm not even at the halfway point yet. My goodness. Drug possession or drug use. Oh, man. I remember those days, y'all. I don't remember smoking in school. I really don't. I don't have any recollection of it. But drug usage and drug possession, I do. Right. And by the time it happened, by the time I was aware of it, I was so conversant in policy that I knew how to handle it. Right. I knew what to do. Right. I've seen from afar some situations of people that did not know what to do. I don't want to put that out here because people watch these videos. So I'm not going to put it out there like that. But I will say this. You got a substance abuse coordinator in your district. You got a nurse in your district. You have people, you got social workers in your district. You got people who are trained in your district, and you have your policy manual. Right. So if you don't know the SAC coordinator, the substance abuse coordinator, get to know that person. If you don't know the nurse in your school, get to know that person. Right. If you don't know student personnel services and what they provide as it relates to students using narcotics, you need to get to know them. You need to get to know their programs. But for the sake of this discussion, you need to know that policy. And a part of what that policy is going to say, it's going to talk about that substance abuse coordinator. But in terms of consequences, right? It's not just youngster came to school intoxicated, youngster came to school inebriated, youngster came to school under the influence. It's not just like youngster cursed at the teacher and now you just write a referral and send them out. I mean, I'm assuming everybody on this call, you know that. It doesn't work that way. Youngsters clearly are under the influence. That you don't go to the discipline file and get a referral and send youngster home under the influence. You have to deal with that, right? The consequence is not even an issue right now. It's the youngster that's the issue. But if you just say you so mad, you're gonna throw him out in the street, then you probably gonna be thrown right behind them, right? So figuratively speaking, you're gonna be penalized. So I'm saying to you have to know policy and you have to also know procedure, right? You got to know procedure, right? And then as we got a superintendent on here, Finch. Let me just put it up on the screen. Our consequences are all geared toward intervention. That's what it is. I mean, because you and I are trying to save the youngster. We're trying to save the youngster. We're not suspending you. Stay home because of that. I mean, a suspension might follow, but that's not the sequence. That's not the priority. The priority is this youngster right now, because obviously some bad decision making is happening in this youngster's life, right? Next, weapon possession. Yeah, I know something about that too. Weapon possession. How you gonna handle that, right? I want y'all to hear me. Somebody tipped you off there's a youngster in your school with a loaded gun. Yeah, there's a policy, but right now we ain't got time to read it, right? But see, that takes, maybe I'll do a whole session on crisis management, right? Maybe I hadn't thought about it, but this just jogged that thought. So maybe at some point I'll do a whole session on crisis management, because if that youngster has that gun, your priority is getting that youngster away from them students, right? Getting that youngster down in that office with you. That's the priority. And then ultimately retrieving that weapon. That's the priority. Not how am I going to suspend this youngster? Not reading the policy manual right now, right? Right now, the number, I mean, and you know, if I can make a quick call to police to let them know, but I'm not trying to do something that's going to make that youngster react. I want you to hear me. My number one priority is to get that youngster out of that classroom. And I don't mean, well, let me be very clear with this, because I'm talking about a delicate topic now. I don't mean I'm going to run in that classroom and grab this youngster up. I don't mean that. You know, I've been in that situation. I've had some very skilled people working with me, and we able to get that youngster to come down with us. And that youngster had no clue as to why we asked that youngster to come down. We so friendly, we talking sports or whatever it was. And now we got the youngster in isolation in a room. And now we can have a conversation. In the meantime, I got police on the way by, or I got them in the building, whatever, depending on what school I worked in. But I'm not saying that I'm going to rely on my first line of defense is reading a policy manual, because common sense is going to tell me if I got 25 kids in a classroom and I got one of them got a gun on them, then my priority is getting that kid out of that room, right? So I want you to think about that. But ultimately, you still have to know the policy on what to do if a youngster comes to school with a weapon. That you have to know. So that crisis management plan session, I know I need to do that, right? Because a lot of that's in that manual that you and your team have created. So it's there, but it's also in your policy manual. So it's in two different places, right? Let's keep moving. Sexual harassment. Oh man, so we talking about some things here. Sexual harassment. That's a big deal. Sexual harassment, student to student, teacher or adult to student, and sometimes student to adult, right? But in our case, you know what would be a little bit more common? Student to student, right? Or adult to student. We see it on the news all the time, right? I'm saying to you, if you know what's happening, if somebody tipped you off, because see, here's the thing. I remember in my earlier days, I had situations. This is as a middle school principal, and I would hear things or youngsters. So youngsters would tell me, but as I would hear things, I said I need a way for them to be able to tell me without having to let the culprit know that this happened. I was inappropriately touched. I was or verbally sexually harassed. You know, whatever the case may be. And I set up something I put this is before computers now. You know, I'm a little older than a lot of you, right? So this before we could email and all that in the building and so forth. So I put this box up and it was unlabeled. And when a student had an issue with something, I said, just find a way to come to the office, put a note in the box, or give it to the teacher, who can in turn put it in the box, right? And then I will read them. I had all these notes at the end of the day. You know, nowadays I wouldn't have to rely on a box and someone handwriting a note. And I would read these notes, and then I would deal with it. I knew policy backwards and forwards, and I would deal with it. But the student knew that in this case, she had an outlet, and she had a friend, a supporter that was going to address it. See, like Yolanda said, old school, that's what it was. Old school, no technology, but I still need that communications flowing. So now I'm able to deal with it, and then bigger picture, macro, bring that entire school to the auditorium and let them know that I'm dealing with all situations. So now as they saw that I'm dealing with it, as they heard that I'm dealing with it, then we were able to diminish, if not eliminate, the problem, because it was clear and evident that the principal is on top of it, because the principal has people in the building telling him everything he needs to know relative to any student not feeling optimally comfortable in the school. I need everybody feeling like I'm in a safe place, right? I'm in a place where I'm valued. I'm in a place where I'm respected by not only the adults but my peers, right? That mattered to me. So I had to build that. Let me keep going. I'm almost done. This is the biggest one on the page right here. Transgender students use and usage of the restroom. That's the biggest one on the, outside of weapons, that's the biggest one on the page because it's so new, right? Transgender students and usage of the restroom, right? See, you and I, we have our politics, whatever that may be. You and I have our values. You and I have our beliefs, right? Whatever that may be. But you know something? There's a policy in the principal's office. There's policy manuals in the principal's office. You're going to have to read it, right? You're going to have to read it because I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what your values are, right? I don't care what your politics are. If the policy says X, Y, Z, then that's the policy, right? So transgender student, gay student, lesbian student, whatever the student may be, the student has to feel that school is a safe place where my rights are being upheld. That's what it has to be. But if on the other hand, youngsters in school and feels that, man, okay, you guys are the way you are and I'm the way I am. Does that mean that I'm not safe here? Does that mean I'm not emotionally safe in this environment? See, youngster has to be safe emotionally, physically in your environment. So first, what does the policy say? Right? So the policy says X, Y, Z as it relates to this topic, transgender students and usage of the restroom. But now there's some education that may have to occur because the policy may say one thing, but it doesn't mean that the students, your majority is in understanding of why you've made the decisions you've made rooted in the policy. It doesn't mean the parents understand. It doesn't mean the community understands. And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily in agreement, depending on your own beliefs and values. So now you got something very delicate to balance because you're a leader. And you're a leader of everybody in the building, not just some of the children or not just the ones who walk lockstep with you in terms of what you believe. So now you got to understand policy. Hopefully, superintendent is engaging you, your whole team in this conversation, right? And now here you are. You got to make a decision, but then you got to educate the school. They have got to understand, right? They've got to understand that we're in 2021. We're not in 1980. Right, it's a new day, and in your school, and when I say school, I mean your students and your staff have to understand, right? So I spent an hour on something I thought I was going to spend 10 minutes on, literally, but that's just how it goes because you write this agenda, and then when you begin to articulate it, it becomes something else. You all know that. I mean, just like when I talked about Hank Aaron, that was supposed to be like no more than 30 seconds. And then once I articulated those 3,000 a day hate letters, I went on and did a whole lecture, right? So it happens. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do what we always do. Part 2 next week, right? Part 2 next week, so that I can cover the rest of this page and then this entire page. And then we'll go on to the next topic. So let me give you this homework assignment. Homework assignment. What measures will I take to ensure I am conversant in district policy? Once again, what measures will I take to ensure that I am conversant in district policy? Right. So we'll continue with chapter 5 next week. Last time for today, reminder: the assistant principal 50, the aspiring principal 50, they go hand in glove. Get them both. You can get them at Amazon. They got thousands of them in stock. This book is in its third printing. It's only been out since May, right? So get them both. Amazon, the publisher, ascd.org, and the actual publisher of ASCD has been on this call the whole morning, Stephanie Roth. That's somebody that's very important in my life, right? And that's a good friend of mine. Stephanie Roth is the publisher at ASCD. So she's been on and commenting the whole time, right? And so make sure you get your hands on that. Visit my website at principalkafele.com. And don't forget, I do these Saturday sessions, but I want to speak to your staff, right? So you just go to principalkafele.com, look at my offerings in terms of what my services are. My fees are not on there, but my workshop offerings and keynote offerings are. Then you send me an email and let's get that contract signed so I can come on and do a Zoom presentation or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams, whatever you use, do the presentation with you guys, or plan for after the pandemic when I come to your school or your conference or your district, whatever it is. Right. But I want to be with you in the building or on the screen beyond what we do on Saturday. Like and follow my Facebook page called Virtual AP Leadership Academy. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Virtual AP Leadership Academy. Put on that mask. Right. We surpassed 400,000 people dying in less than a year. Let that resonate. Over 400,000 deaths of beautiful people in less than a year, and we're living in a society. I do my walk every day, right? And I pass people on the street. I walk on the streets and on the sidewalk, and the volume of people that will not put this on. Just put it on, my God. Just put it on. Put it on. That's all we're asking. Put the mask on. No, I don't look great with the mask on, but I'm able to protect me and protect them. So put the mask on. That's all, so that we can get this virus behind us. I'm tired of this virus. I'm tired of living in paranoia. I'm tired of living in fear. I'm tired of worrying about my loved ones, right? I just want this to be behind me so that I can just be concerned about catching a cold or even the flu is a killer, but it ain't COVID, right? But COVID, put the mask on, somebody. If you watching this thing right now, and I'm your guy, and you come on here and you watch this every week, and you down with Principal Kafele, I want you to hear me. I know I'm going over. Just stay with me for a second. If you somebody that been riding with me since week 1, May 2nd, 2020, and here we are going into week 40 next week, you ride with me. I'm down with Kafele. I like what he has to say. This has helped me. I watch his interview videos. It helped me get my job, or it got me my job. Many people tell me I'm working because I watch his videos. I read his books. I listen to his podcast when he's being interviewed. I read his blogs. I'm on his website, man. I'm down with this dude. Let me tell you something. Hear me, somebody. You down with me, but you're not wearing this? You're not down with me. And let me tell you why. I'm going to say this with love, though, because I ain't down with you. I'm saying it with love, though, but I ain't down with you. How you going to be down with me and you not wearing this, and you expect me to be down with you? I'm not down with you because you are participating in spreading this virus. So we ain't talking about your politics. You could sit on whatever side of the aisle that makes your butt feel comfortable, right? That I ain't got nothing to do with that. All I'm saying is put this on so that when you talk, because listen, I don't see the spray, but when I'm on a stage and they got a spotlight on me, y'all stay with me for a hot second. When I'm on a stage, right, and they got like the bright lights on me, and I can't see the audience because the lights are so bright, I'm like really embarrassed. Here's why. I see here's the gentle word. I see my droplets, my spray. Now let me use the real word. I see my spit going all over the place. I'm like, I almost said the D word. I'm like, man, it's like them bright lights be on you. They're so bright. Because when I do a lot of keynotes, they got the bright lights on you. So I don't see the audience. I don't see them at all. I just know they're there. But the lights are so bright, the droplets look like dust. It looks like just dust all over the place. I'm like, in my mind, I'm saying, man, I hope they don't see what I see. And this is before COVID. I'm like, I hope they don't see what I see, because that looks crazy, right? So what that means is that's what I do all the time. But it means that my wife making faces. That's what everybody does, not just me. That ain't me by myself. That means when we talk, we spraying. And now you gonna walk past me on your phone, laughing on the phone call? That means you spraying all over the place, but it's sunlight outside, so we don't see it. But them lights on me doing them keynotes, man, that stuff be like, that's what I'm like, man, I hope they can't see that. But if I see it, they probably see it. So that's how dangerous, I'm saying that to say this, that's how dangerous the world is. That spray, that's a killer right there. People talking about Kafele. Could you come, like someone called me the other day, could you come speak at our district in February? I'm like, February? I ain't coming down there in February. No. Money sound real good, but I'm not coming down there in February, right? Because I'm not going to do the presentation like this. I'm not doing the presentation like this. So now that means that I'll be up there speaking to them, probably in a library if it's not a keynote or a small cafeteria. That means I'm going to be spraying the room. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So I said no to protect them. I mean, I am saying it to protect me too, but more so, I don't want on my conscience that I spoke to an audience and I killed people. That's what I'm saying. See, that's what I'm saying. So with that said, folks, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to stand on my soapbox for a few minutes, right? Because this matters to me. Appreciate you guys checking in. Get with me next week, next Saturday at 11 o'clock Eastern, as we delve into part 2 of I finished policy. So we're going to go to law, school law, special needs law, contracts, and whatever else I may add to it. And I'll see you then, right? So with that said, have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Now we cock that fist back, man, and we count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! That was probably a whole lot of spray went up when I said that. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? But it hit my computer screen. I see you guys next week. Appreciate you.